Hello and welcome to Insiders, a podcast all about the world of television with me, Jimmy Mulville.
And me, Peter Fincham.
This is the podcast for people who love TV and want to know what's going on behind the scenes. So,
before we get to TV, Jim, I just wanted to say, at the weekend, terrible weather at the weekend, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Do you know what I did? I read your book.
You read my book?
I read it from beginning to end.
Well, it's a short book.
Oh yeah, but it's a great. I really enjoyed it.
Did you?
Yeah.
And you.
So I'm here to plug your book to our
Thank you.
listeners. Buy Jimmy Mulville's book. It's about Everton. It's not just about Everton, is it? It's about you.
Yeah.
It's about your life. We touch on your career in television, some of your ups and downs. I thought it was really good fun to read.
That's very kind of you, Peter. And of course, you're in it.
I do get a mention. I do get a mention for inviting you. Was it you and
When
Edison
you were
Creswell?
running the BBC.
I was running BBC1, and this is maybe a sign of changing times. Basically, when I was running BBC1, let's say we had the rights to the World Cup.
Yeah, you did.
You just said, I think I'll go to this game, that game, this game, this game. And they, somebody or other from the sports department just gave you tickets. They were the very best seats.
I know.
You got a plane, stayed in a nice hotel. It was in Germany, wasn't it?
It was in Germany,
Frankfurt or
It was
something like
behind
that.
enemy lines.
Behind enemy lines. I can't remember who were we playing. I
We were playing. I think it was.
Wayne Rooney got sent off.
It was in that tournament that he got sent off against Portugal. But no, it was against, oh my God, it was the opening game and I forget now. And but I know they put up a very stalwart fight. I think we won 1-0 or something against a minor team. But we were with Addison Cresswell, who was
the great
agent
manager
of
and agent of
Jack D. He was
Jonathan
a lovely
Ross,
bloke.
Many people, a lovely man who we
The
much
late and
miss.
great Addison Cresswell. And he was very frightened because he was very paranoid about the press buttonholing him, because the previous night Jonathan Ross had interviewed David Cameron on the Jonathan Ross show.
And he'd asked him if he fancied Mrs. Thatcher.
No, he'd asked him if he'd masturbated.
Well, yes.
in
I
front
was
of
using the word fancied for a family audience.
For the Disney audience,
Yeah.
which of course was a joke.
Yes.
But then the Daily Mail, the Mail on Sunday, went nuts about it, and Addison kept saying to me, Jimmy, I don't want it to kick off. It's when we get there.
In Addison's world, it was always about to kick off.
It's always about to kick
Something
off.
was about to kick off.
It's all going to kick off, and actually, so it allowed me to say at 3 p.m. when Wayne Rooney got the ball on the centre spot, I said, "No, Addison, now it's going to kick off."
What I was struck reading about your, this is maybe a little bit of a stretch.
Go on.
Reading about your loyalty over many years to Everton is a sort of similarity between being a football fan and being an independent producer.
Yeah.
Because you got to stick with it through the good times and the bad times.
It's
and
character forming, isn't it?
It's character forming. It requires a certain kind of irrepressibility. You need to be like a jack in the box. You have three ideas turned down on the same day.
Yes.
Rewrite your business plan for next year, and yet you've got to come in smiling the next morning and saying, "Let's go and pitch something to Channel 4 or something, or to Amazon or whoever." And it's weirdly a little bit similar character trait
You have to be
being a fan of a
relentless, yes.
football team, particularly when they don't win all the time. as
No,
Everton
it's
have.
like, what else are you going to do? I mean, Winston Churchill, I think, it's always relied upon for a quote about this. He said, the definition of success was someone who lurches from disappointment to disappointment with equal enthusiasm.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that could be on our gravestone, Peter.
And being an Everton fan
Oh, yes.
has been, funny enough, because there's something we're going to talk about later is BBC and Director Generals, and there's some story out there that Mark Thompson might come back for a second run at it, and I thought, no, this is exactly the same as football managers who come back to the club a second time.
It's always perilous.
Jose Mourinho did it, didn't he? And who was the one at Everton?
Howard Kendall.
Howard Kendall.
Yeah.
Was it 3 times?
He came back 3 times with diminishing returns each time he came back.
Yeah, yes. You
He
just
couldn't
can't recapture
the magic, the lightning in the bottle that we're all after.
Oh,
Okay,
well.
so...
Okay, let's now go to television. Donald Trump.
Hooray!
What's he doing watching the Grammys? Is the first, or has somebody said to him, "Have you seen what they've said about you on the Grammys, Mr. President?" It seems bizarre to me.
I would think his team keep him well away from any adverse comments. A bit like an agent keeping the star away from bad reviews. But no, I think he sits at home and watches TV all day.
That's tragic. So he's, it's not as if the music featured on the Grammys is likely to, but he likes YMCA, doesn't he? And Village People and all that kind of stuff. He's not going to like Olivia Dean.
So what
and things like
happened
that.
this year at the Grammys then?
Trevor Noah was a very funny man, was the host. And so he makes a gag about
What's
and
the
I'm going
gag?
to read it. I'm going to be, because I don't want to be sued. I'm going to read it.
Sell it, Peter. Sell it to us.
Song of the Year. That is a Grammy that every artist wants almost as much as Trump wants Greenland, which makes sense because Epstein's island is gone. He needs a new one to hang out with Bill Clinton.
And that got a laugh.
It's not a great joke, is it?
Tumbleweed, mate. Tumbleweed.
But I think more fun, but longer, I warn you, is Trump's response on Truth Social. Remember, this is the President of the United States. He must have a few things on his plate.
Yeah.
You would think he got a lot of things to pay attention to.
Yes.
So this is what he says. The Grammy Awards are the worst, virtually unwatchable. CBS is lucky not to have this garbage litter their airwaves any longer. The host, Trevor Noah, whoever he may be, is almost as bad as Jimmy Kimmel at the Low Ratings Academy Awards. Noah said, incorrectly about me, that Donald Trump and Bill Clinton spent time on Epstein Island. Wrong. I can't speak for Bill, but I've never been to Epstein Island, nor anywhere close, and until tonight's false and defamatory statement, have never been accused of being there, not even by the fake news media. Noah, a total loser, better get his facts straight and get them straight fast. It looks like I'll be sending my lawyers to sue this poor, pathetic, talentless dope of an MC and suing him for plenty of dollars.
Wow, he's classy.
What?
He's a class act.
So when I read that, I thought, I've never really thought about this. He presumably doesn't type himself. He's not like you and I with our phone, with our thumbs, He presumably just spouts off and some poor minion has to take down the dictation or record it and then turn it into a post on Truth Social.
But do you think anyone kind of advises him not to do this, or he just is a loose?
I think they may have given up.
He's the definition of a loose cannon.
They may have given up, and also I read a thing about this recently, that the sheer number of his posts, it's like 6,000 since he became president for the second time, means that in a way none of them matter in the least. Because within a few hours he'll be banging on about something else altogether. So the Grammys were on CBS and Paramount.
Yeah.
Actually, for the last time.
They're going to Disney.
Exactly. Disney have grabbed the rights, and I haven't done a study of it lately, but ratings for award ceremonies have been in long-term decline, and in many ways the point of them is not the ratings. It's the hullabaloo around them, the noise around them. So who has contributed to the hullabaloo around them more than anybody else? In a way, Donald Trump's attack on them is exactly what the Grammys want.
Yeah.
Because unless they have to shell out 20 million to shut him up, because it's giving them publicity, and we're reading about it. Well, here we are. We're talking about it now.
No, he is basically turned the news into his own reality show.
Yeah.
So he basically, when we do Have I Got News to You in America, which we're doing it currently, fortunately there are other lunatics in America you can talk about. But for the first half of the show, basically it's all about Trump. And then we go off and spiral off into other stories for a bit of light relief.
There's something in bold in our notes, Jim.
This is in case we get sued. To be clear, Trump says he had no knowledge of Epstein's crimes. There are no suggestions he ever visited Epstein's private island, and he's not been accused of any crime by Epstein's victims. The US Justice Department has said allegations about him are unfounded and false. And of course, the US Justice Department are totally reliable. There was a BBC board meeting in Salford. They live the life, don't they?
I've been to Salford. I went to Media City.
By the way, Salford's a fine place.
I went to Media City when it was...
It's in the northwest.
I know where it is, Jim.
I'm just pointing it out to you.
When it was a car park on a very rainy day. It was basically a load of puddles. And because it was raining so hard, we, the BBC leadership team, stayed in our bus. Nobody wanted to get out. And then I think it was Peter Salmon said, this is where Media City's going to be.
Oh, you were leading from the back?
And a great discussion developed about people who were going to move from their lovely houses in Chiswick to Manchester or Salford as part of this great migration. And Peter Salmon referred to them as the chosen ones.
Yeah.
So
but he didn't go.
I know.
And
but they were in Salford. Why shouldn't they be?
Yes. And there's been and Samir Shah, who's the chairman, led a vibrant meeting. Well, they all stayed awake. But there's been a leak. There's been some leaking. And there's some ideas coming out to, clearly, the thing they're wrestling with is how are we going to fund the BBC going forward? They're going to renew their charter. Will the government want them to fund in a different way? So they come up with various ideas. And one of the ideas, not strictly TV, but will affect the TV licence, is a radio levy. What is the radio levy?
It's a balmy idea, because it's not as if we're all short of radio to listen to. So the idea that we'd suddenly subscribe to radio in large numbers, maybe in small numbers, but have they modelled this? Have they worked out what percentage, say, of the current audience for Radio 4, which is probably the key network, the most prominent network that is also most unique to the BBC, because the music-based networks, Radio 1, Radio 2, in its own way, Radio 3, all have commercial rivals that do quite similar things to them. But Radio 4, let's just stick with Radio 4. At the moment, Radio 4, even in these kind of highly competitive times, has a unique reach, much loved. You'd call it one of the treasures of the BBC. But if you wake up one day and say, from now on, you've got to pay for it, you've got a subscription to Radio 4, that reach is going to go so dramatically down.
Do you think?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Would you not pay?
I might pay. It depends on how much it is. We all pay a lot of subscriptions. The whole subscription thing, there's a sort of subscription saturation, you could argue out there already. There are. No, I bet you have subscriptions. Well, let me ask you, to all the mainstreamers, to Amazon, Apple, Disney, Netflix. So, but a lot of time I meet people who say, well, yeah, but I've got Netflix and I can't. I'm not going to pay for Amazon as well, or I'm not going to pay for Apple as well. Let's say, so you'd be adding another one for. I don't know whether you'd be adding it for all BBC radio services or specifically for a network like Radio 4. But I think it's quite a big ask of people to pay for something that's been free to them for, their whole lifetimes.
Except, I suppose, if you are going to do this, and they talked before about, selling TV programmes off in bundles, which I think is a mad idea. The idea that you would bundle up faction entertainment and documentaries, and that's your bundle, because then that becomes more expensive and just very complicated to manage. But this, splitting radio and TV seems to be at least a kind of, I can see the thinking behind it.
It seems to me that it's very easy to say the licence fee is anachronistic. It's easy if you're a politician to say it must end, like Boris Johnson's government did. But it is extremely difficult to work out how you replace it. And so I don't envy the BBC board at their meeting in Salford trying to work on these ideas. One other one that's been mentioned is means testing of some sort.
Yes, so wealthier households pay more?
Blimey, that's a can of worms.
Yeah.
That is a can of worms. Obviously, you can see some kind of logic to it, but rather like, notoriously when the Thatcher government replaced the council tax in those days with the poll tax. That was inching down that road with disastrous results. And
also, then they've come up with the idea of reducing costs. Well, I think the BBC, obviously...
That's hardly a very original idea, is it?
That is the go-to, isn't it? Is if you want to increase your profits, you reduce your costs.
I would say that if one of your BBC has various Achilles heels, and one is the same number of people work for it as like 30 years ago, and any commercial organisation wouldn't operate like that. So, in that sense, reducing costs would be a good thing.
Yes.
But it's painful. And you look at successive Director Generals of the BBC, and you could argue that's the nettle they haven't grasped. I think I'm right in saying that in like 1990, about 22,000 people worked for the BBC, and it's almost the same number today. But I would say, as we both are friends and supporters of the BBC, we want the BBC to succeed and to continue to exist. I think it's a bit worrying that it is more broadly accepted probably than ever that the licence fee is an anachronism and can't go on forever. And yet, bluntly, the best they can come up with is a radio levy, which, we can debate whether or not people would pay it, but it's
nibbling,
small
isn't
potatoes.
It's not nibbling. It's what they call salami slicing.
Yeah, and means testing.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. that's never going to happen. Or reducing their costs. There's another one, which is allowing BBC Studios to take on more debt to expand. But these feel like they're around the edges.
Well, it's interesting.
The heart of it is still the licence fee. And I haven't yet seen anybody suggest something that would raise that sort of amount of money to keep the BBC.
Well, interesting. I had breakfast this morning with my old friend John Thoday. You know, we formed our friendship when we were trying to buy BBC Three.
Well, that could have raised him a bob or two.
Well, the thing is,
for a pound, didn't you?
John is he's a macro thinker, and he was saying, we were talking about BBC Studios, and the truth is, if you set up a production company, there are two outcomes in the end. Either it fails and you close it down, or it succeeds and you sell it to a bigger company.
What about just trundles on making good programmes?
Well, it can do that, which is what obviously you and I are forced to do. But
oh yeah, what a pain that is. Just have to make programmes we love and really believe in.
No, but what I'm saying is that and I said this. I remember saying this to Danny Cohen when he invited a bunch of independent producers in to talk about the idea that BBC may set up an independent production company, and their raison d'etre was, well, we need to release the creativity of our in-house development teams so they can supply programming across the world, across different platforms. That's fine.
What does that mean? Really? What was the creativity at that point, sort of under lock and key? They've only hidden it away. We want to open the doors creativity burst forth.
But to be fair to them, if you're a BBC producer and you pitched an idea to BBC Fact Dent or BBC Drama,
yes,
you didn't.
I get that.
And they said no.
That's a real
point. And as you and I know, that on occasions, Peter, we've been turned down by 15 different organisations, and then someone along the line has said yes, and we've kept quiet about the 15 passes we've had, and we say this is great, this is fantastic. We found a home for our great programme. But John was saying, and I think I could see this, he said Warner Brothers is about to sell to either Paramount or to Netflix, but probably 10 times what it's really worth, right? Why don't the BBC sell BBC Studios and make billions and billions of pounds, which then underpins its activities for the next 5 to 10 years until next charter renewal, when they could actually compete with Netflix, and especially in the drama space? They'd have the wherewithal to say, no, we'll do this programme, we'll do this drama, and we'll do it on our own, and we'll be the anchor network. It would be a good thing to do.
It's an interesting thought. I think it's a flawed argument, because obviously the windfall from selling it is a one-off. Then you're left as a broadcaster. You're in the position that ITV might find themselves in.
Well, exactly. But why are they doing it then?
You're a broadcaster, so I mean, obviously currents can flow in different directions. You're going the opposite direction of, let's say, Channel 4, who have now started their in-house production arm, have they not? And
I think this month, Sarah Dillistone.
Sarah Dilly, she's known to people.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, people in the know call her Dilly?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Sarah, who's starting this month, will start to develop in-house production capabilities as part of Channel 4's fast-forward strategy to diversify and grow revenues to remain a strong and successful business and reinvest back into the creative community. Well, maybe. I think setting up the production company in this current climate is a mad idea, especially when you've got no money and Channel 4 have got no money.
Yeah, but if they sell to themselves, which will be the easiest thing for them to do, then what they will be doing is kind of making life a bit tougher for independents.
Well, I have on good authority that there was a dinner not so long ago, which Jonathan Allen, the acting CEO of Channel 4, was heard to say, "Well,
were you at this dinner?
No,
were you invited?
But I know somebody.
I wasn't invited either.
I know somebody who was.
Okay, no names mentioned.
No names mentioned, and they said to me that he said out loud. He said, "Well, we're going to set up our own production company. It's going to be bad news for independents."
Wow, was this person who was there an independent producer?
I'm not saying what he was or what she was in any capacity.
Yeah, but there were independent producers present at this dinner.
There weren't many.
Yeah,
and I think when
there were any. That's a very bold thing to say.
And I think that when he found out, he tried to row back. But that's the thinking within Channel 4 now, completely against its original remit, which was to only commission from the independent production centre. Channel 4 stimulated the independent production sector, which is probably the most successful part of our industry. And here it is now saying, you know what, we don't give a fuck about the independent production centre. We're going to set up our own production company. Well, good luck with that, because the other thing is, if you're commissioning from your own company, where does the quality control come in?
Well, obviously that's a big and complicated issue, and I'm very familiar with it from both the BBC and ITV.
Well, maybe the chairman.
You can juggle your way through, and I'm quite struck by what he said. If this is true, that he said it because, at ITV the rhetoric was always to say the door is open to independence. We want the best ideas from the best sources. That's all we're interested in. Behind closed doors, not surprisingly, there was a degree of your arm being twisted up your back by the kind of top management saying, yeah, but wouldn't it be good if you just commissioned more from ITV studios? And a sort of bit of a fudge in the middle was how things went on. It was part of my, annual targets or incentives or something to increase the percentage of in-house production year by year. So we went from 62% one year, wanted to go to 64 the next year. And you kind of thought, oh, this goes with the territory. I can deal with this. It's not the end of the world. Nobody's actually going to overrule me and say you've got to commission this idea just because it's kind of in-house. But you certainly wouldn't have got out in public and say this is bad news. But
also ITV, with all due respect, ITV is a commercial organisation that was set up like that.
Yeah, and it hasn't got in its remit any particular. No. Its reason for commissioning independent production were two. One, there's a 25% quota.
It was forced to.
Yeah, but two, self-interest.
Yeah, because
if during my time there, the biggest shows like The X Factor and Britain's Got Talent,
Downton Abbey,
they were independent productions. So it's very easy to look at top management and say, "Are you really saying you want to cancel those shows so that you can get something a little bit similar from in-house?" So self-interest said, you want to be out in the marketplace.
Getting the best ideas.
Yeah. And you can combine that with a kind of mission to increase the commissioning from in-house. And, it's a slight fudge, but life's full of slight fudges, isn't it? It kind of worked. It was kind of all right. But we would never in public or in any kind of forum with independent producers anyway there say what we're doing is bad for independent producers.
Yeah.
We'd never, ever have said that. So I'm surprised by this.
I think that Jeremy Isaacs, who was the very first CEO of Channel 4, would be spinning in his grave. I mean, he is dead, isn't he?
I don't know.
I haven't put him in the ground too soon, have I? Anyway, I think he wouldn't approve of it. If he's above ground, he would not approve of this, because his mission, I guess, was to create an innovative, groundbreaking channel, opening doors to new voices, and basically stimulating a whole new industry, which is the independent production sector. And here's Channel 4 now. I suppose
you could argue that was then, this is now. You can always use that argument.
Yeah, I get it, but it's flailing around now. This feels like it's a Hail Mary pass. I don't think it's going to work, to be honest with you. I don't want to be, death at the feast, but it'll be very hard to set up a production company now, even though you're backed by a broadcaster. But the broadcaster...
But let me rehearse the argument, kind of play devil's advocate a bit here, in the opposite direction. If I were Channel 4, I think what I'd say was, yes, of course, that's what the remit said. That's what Jeremy Isaac felt the mission was. There were only 3 or 4 channels then. There was BBC1, BBC 2, ITV, Channel 4. That was the entire menu of channels that viewers in the UK were able to choose between. Now, if you're an independent producer, you have indeed got all the streamers. You've also got Sky, UK TV, 5, as well as all those channels. So we need to respond to the world as it is now, not as the world as it was then. And if we are depending upon getting the best ideas out of independent producers, bearing in mind that money is tight, we can't pay for a show. We've just had a show announced that we're making for Disney, and very exciting show. it would be perfectly fair to say we didn't even take it to the terrestrials. We went to streamers, and Disney, you're going to be very exciting partners. We, showed great interest in it. So the argument in the opposite direction is if you're Channel 4, you've got to do something about that. Mm-hmm. So by starting in-house production, I'm sure they're not going to say to the in-house unit, you can't sell anywhere else, because otherwise they become the equivalent of BBC Studios in the old days. But you're going to have a closer relationship with the commissioning body. You can focus your best attention on addressing Channel 4's needs in a way that they may feel that independent producers don't do anymore. Channel 4... may be rather low on the list of broadcasters that we take ideas to.
That's interesting.
Partly because they haven't got the money.
So your argument is that they're basically thinking, well, in order to survive creatively, we need to think of our own ideas. I'm not sure that's the case.
Well, no, I'm imagining the argument at their end and saying, well, we don't live in a world of
arguments or justification.
Well, justification. We don't live in a kind of pure world, if you like. We live in a mixed economy, slightly compromised world of, and always have done, because the BBC have made programmes, and we are passionate kind of advocates of champions of the independent production sector, that inevitably, because that's what we've done, for so many years. But I can see a way that you could look at it in a slightly different way, that if you sit there passively while many, many more people compete for the best ideas, it's like this basic idea that I'm sure I've said this before on this podcast. We think of broadcasters as buyers and us as sellers, but they're also sellers, because they've got to sell their network to us. They've got to say, we are the place for you to bring your best ideas.
But this is not a very good way of selling Channel 4 to the independent
No,
sector.
I think it isn't. I agree.
So I think
the price you pay is that the danger is
we'll
Channel
turn
4
away
goes
from Channel 4
further down the list, and we think the more successful their in-house production arm gets, the more we'll think, hey, we've just had the best idea since the Traitors. Here's the list of people we'll take it to. Number one, Netflix or whatever. Number two, blah, 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 blah. And the danger is Channel 4's getting lower and lower on that list. Yeah. I think that is true.
And I think that's the danger of this, is that they end up by also favouring ideas that maybe, in the cut and thrust of the marketplace wouldn't surpass the quality threshold. That's one danger, is that you give special favours to in-house production. But the other one is, as you say, it's that the outside world, the independent sector, thinks, what is the point of going? Because in fact, their setup is very old-fashioned. ITV Studios and ITV have a slight separation. BBC, by the way, BBC Studios and BBC, I think, I think there is a separation there. I think the BBC broadcast is very fair-handed when it comes to commissioning programmes. And I think that, in the old days, they had this 25%. Then they had the wok. Remember the window of creative...
It's not wok, W-O-K, which is indeed a pan that you cook food in.
Well, I'm sure you're constantly stood over your wok, aren't you?
I think we used it as a sky dish.
You're bent over your wok.
It's W-O-C-C.
The window of creative competition at the BBC. Yeah. It was basically a commissioning policy that allowed programmes to be competed for outside BBC's in-house production unit. So it was opening up BBC in-house. And how it worked was, the in-house guarantee was 25% for in-house, guaranteed 25% for independent, and the window was the 50% in between those two extremes, was basically anyone could pitch into that.
It's all come back to me now.
And we gobbled up, and the independent production sector gobbled up most of that 50%.
And now
why? Because BBC Broadcast wanted the best programmes,
and
the best programmes were coming from the independent sector, not from in-house.
Exactly. And when I arrived at the BBC, they said, take no notice of it anyway. Commission whatever you like.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even a binding, the wok, but it was a presentation
and
thing,
ChatGPT here, I've just consulted, it enabled companies like Hattrick, Endemol and Tiger Aspect to grow.
What about TalkBack?
Well, it's not mentioned here, Peter. I'm very sorry to say that it hasn't made the cut.
People keep telling me ChatGPT is full of errors.
It's terribly inconsistent.
Yeah, but what can I would suggest one of the reasons the BBC is very good at that is they're not really a commercial organisation. So go back to this thing of in-house production at BBC. So we made a programme for 3 or 4 years for Channel 4 that we're very proud of, a daytime show called Steph's Packed Lunch with the wonderful Steph McGovern. And then after 3 or 4 years, Channel 4 cancelled it because they said we need to spend the money elsewhere. Yeah. We can't afford it or whatever. We were very upset because it was made in Leeds, which was a very important thing for Channel 4. It was their flagship Leeds commission, and yet they still cancelled it and haven't replaced it with anything similar. Had that been, this is conjecture, had that been an in-house production under this new thing by Sarah Dilliston, would they be more reluctant to cancel it?
Of course.
ITV have never cancelled. Let's just use one of their daytime shows as an example. Loose Women's still going. Loose Women is a pretty old-fashioned concept if you think about it. You would not, under any circumstances, launch a show called Loose Women today. But even though...
Hookers mainly, but not Loose Women.
Even though it's not what it was and so on and so forth, it continues and continues. It's an in-house production. Yeah. So I can think back to when I was the director of television. Technically, I could have cancelled Loose Women. Yeah. Or indeed this morning.
It would have been a furor.
Furore, I call it.
A furore.
You can call it furore.
Furore. Furore.
It would have been a hell of a fuss. Yeah. Let's call it that. So once things are made in-house, there is, of course, a subtly different attitude to recommissioning them.
Well, let's see how it goes with Channel 4. I mean, it's starting this month. Yeah. The starting gun has been fired, or is it a shot of suicide from him within the bowels of Channel 4?
That's a bit harsh.
We don't know.
I mean, actually, funny.
Because Ian Katz is still
you make a very good point. That's a kind of interesting point, because who exactly owns this? Because it's not really, in a sense, it's initiative of the outgoing CEO, Alex Mahon, because it was announced in her time. But it's actually starting when she's gone, and when I think Jonathan Allen's still acting CEO, but the new CEO, Priya Dogra, hasn't yet arrived.
She's coming in April, is she?
Coming in April. So you could say of this, it's something that nobody's quite got their fingerprints on. And that will worry me as well. That will worry me. In other words, if it struggled or didn't do that quite well, who's going to say, I owned this? You know, Priya Dogra could say, I don't know why we did it at all in the first place.
Well, the only continuity candidate there is Ian Katz.
Sure. So
but they can blame him.
Yeah, but to be fair to Ian, I always felt having in-house and independent production was having your cake and eating. It was best of both worlds. Yeah. So, if I were Ian, I would say, yeah, bring it on. I just want more suppliers.
If I were Ian, I'd commission like crazy up until April. And I know I only say that because I've got a show in with them that needs commissioning.
We talk about Channel 4 often.
Yeah.
Jim.
Well, we love Channel 4.
We love Channel 4.
It
so
stimulated
don't for
the
a
whole
minute
thing.
think anything other than that. Maybe we should try to get a guest from Channel 4 on our podcast. Where maybe Ian Katz would come on.
Or maybe the chairman can give us some tips on doing up houses.
Or a discount. Next time I'm at Travis Perkins and I'm buying a bit of 2x2, I'd like 20% off.
Exactly.
No, I think
he probably couldn't come till next Tuesday, though.
I think it would be, let's ask Ian. Let's ask Ian if he'll come on.
I think it would be great to get Ian Katz on.
Yeah. Okay, we can agree that. On that, we'll come back, dear listeners, next week and say whether that request has been successful or whether he's told us to piss off.
He's a very good bloke. All right.
Thanks very much for listening. Are there any questions about the world of television you've always wanted to ask? Send them our way. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, you can send us an email or you can get in touch via our socials. All the info is in the description.
Even better yet, why not subscribe to our YouTube channel?
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, do follow Insiders, the TV podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening.